Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry Pollock, Alison McConnell is here, and this week we have Suzanne Lappin on the couch as well. Let's have a look at the results from the weekend. We had Partick Thistle 0, Hearts 3, Montrose 2, Hamilton 1, Rangers 2, Hibernian 1, Dundee United 2, Spartans 4, Motherwell 3, Aberdeen 0 and Glasgow City 1, Celtic 2. On the table, Glasgow City fall 3 points behind Celtic now, whereas Elena Suduka's side remain just a point behind Rangers. Alison, you were at the Celtic-Glasgow City game. What was your overall take of it?
Yeah, I thought it was quite a scrappy game, to be honest. I think it was a game, certainly in the first period, there was a real impression that neither team wanted to lose it. I didn't think anyone really took a firm grip of the game. I think Celtic did laterally in the second period. I think once Natasha Flint had put them 2-0 up, I thought they looked very comfortable. It could have gone to 3 almost immediately. That's Amy Gallagher drew a save from Lee Gibson, kind of just had to fingertip save over the bar. And I thought at that point Celtic looked very comfortable, but I thought City regrouped. I thought they found their composure again. Had they got the goal back slightly earlier in the game, I think they might have pushed properly for a leveller. As it was, I think they left it far too late in the game to really come to life. I think that will be a disappointing aspect for Leanne Ross. I think you've seen City play so much better at points in this season. Celtic, I think, too, but it's an interesting one because I think it's a second big statement win now for Elena Suduka. That's Rangers a fortnight ago and then beating Glasgow City. So they've beaten the two out the big three now post-split. I think that's enormous for Celtic psychologically. I think mentally that puts them in a very good place going into the run-in. For me, I still think Rangers are probably marginally the best team out of the three of them. It'll be interesting though to see how they cope with a bit of pressure, and you saw that yesterday, left it very late before coming back and getting the 2 goals to beat Hibs.
It was a slow burner, as Alison was saying, for Celtic, Suzanne, but are they gathering pace at the right time of the season?
Yeah, I think they are. I think, I agree with Alison. I think yesterday, neither team were at their best, but I think what Celtic probably have that certainly edges Glasgow City is they have that firepower up top. So although that the game was a bit stop-start and neither team sort of dominated or had loads of chances, you could always tell that when Celtic went forward they looked the most likely to score. And as you say, it's massive statement victories, to beat their closest rivals in quick succession. They'll be feeling confident. And I think from Glasgow City's point of view yesterday, particularly at Petershill Park, they've got to stamp their authority there because it's a difficult pitch if you're not used to it. It's very tight, and Glasgow City play there week in, week out, and if I thought they would take points off of Celtic and Rangers, it would be there. But I think yesterday they were just so disappointing in terms of they're creating chances, they're going forward, they were sort of second to every ball as well, which in these games you've got to be right at it from the first whistle, and I think it was a disappointing performance overall from Glasgow City.
From a Celtic perspective, Natasha Flint has come back into the squad. How much of an asset will she be from now until the end?
Yeah, massive. I actually asked Elena that question and she told me it was all about the team. But, and it is, of course it is, but I don't think you can deny that Tash Flint, her goal scoring speaks for itself. I mean, that chance that she scored, she was clinical. I don't think anybody thought she was going to miss. And I think even just allowing Amy Gallagher to come that bit deeper as well, her through ball for that second goal was, superb. And I think the two of them have got such great link up, and then you throw in Kit Lafersky and it's a really, really strong front three.
I think the thing with Natasha Flint is as well, there's just a physicality about her. Yeah. That she just lends a different element to how Celtic play entirely when she's in the team. I know Celtic wanted to keep her last summer after her first loan spell at the club, and I think obviously Liverpool came in with a very lucrative offer and I think she wanted to test herself down south, but you can see why they wanted to get her back when she wasn't getting a lot of game time in January, and they offered her a route back into first team football. You can see why, because it gives Celtic an entirely different dimension to that front line. It really does, and I think she's clinical, she's calm, she's very composed. Yeah. And it's big goals. Mm-hmm. It's goals against Rangers, it's goals against Glasgow City, big moments in games.
Yeah. Is this when you need your experienced players, Suzanne, to step up and to know what the league can throw at them when they've got a cup final around the corner as well, when it gets that busy time of season?
Yeah, no, you do. I think, every game now, I said it yesterday, is a cup final in itself. It's all about, yes, you want the performance, but it's all about picking up the points. And you know, you spoke about Tash Flint now coming back and being that big game player, because, you know, for over the years, I think if we're honest, Celtic probably relied too much on Caitlin Hayes, who actually isn't, you know, the front player to come up with the big goals, but now they have, you know, the likes of Tash Flint back as well, and, you know, it'll be critical for them going into the, you know, the final point of the season to have those players all firing.
Definitely will. Despite missing out on some of the points yesterday, Glasgow City boss Leanne Ross still believes her side are within a shout of fighting for the title.
Yeah, it can be, but we've been in different circumstances last season in terms of knowing what it's like to be out in front and trying to get ourselves over the line to win the title. We're now in a different situation this season, and for me, I think that there's less pressure when you're actually the team that's chasing. So whether that's in the mindset of the players, I can't speak for them, but it's certainly not in my mindset that we can't turn this around and keep fighting for the title.
Yeah, did you like being the leading the pack, Suzanne, or did you like that pressure?
The team was all out.
I was going to say, I don't want to sound big-headed, but yeah, so I understand what Leanne's saying there in terms of it is a different sort of pressure. When you are, you know, chasing down the ones out in front. You know, it's probably not a situation that City have found themselves in, you know, loads of times before, but you know, she's got to look, you spoke about experience there, she's got to look to those experienced players in the dressing room. You know, it is their title and you've got to have a bit of pride about that and really, really fight from it. You know, it is probably, you know, more difficult to retain a title. You know, we spoke about, you know, the firepower that Celtic's got. For me, that could potentially be the difference. You know, for me, Glasgow City don't have an out-and-out goal scorer. They just don't have someone that you look at and go, there's your 15 goals a season. And I think, you know, particularly in these big games, that's who you need in your team. And, you know, I think Leanne Ross yesterday, you could see on her face, she was just really disappointed because, you know, take that aside, I think the level of performance was just not where she wanted it to be.
Well, earlier on, Hibs took the lead against Rangers, but Rio Hardy and Cathy Hill got 2 second-half goals to remain in top spot. Rangers took a while to get a foothold of the game, Alison.
Yeah, and I think the longer it was going on, the more you were thinking, gosh, there could be a real surprise on the cards here. But yeah, I think, to be fair, I think that's the hallmark of champions. You don't play well, you go, you grind out the result, you take the points and you move on. And you're at the point now in the campaign, 8 games remaining, it's simply just about banking points. It's like you can see the finish line. Doesn't matter how you're getting there, it's just about getting over the line. But I do think it'll be interesting to see, because what we've seen for so much of the season is Rangers being out in front, setting the pace, setting the tone in the league. A point between them and Celtic, they've lost to Celtic. They stuttered against Partick Thistle, obviously in league duty, fairly comfortable in the cup final eventually. So I think what you've seen at this point is maybe just a few seeds of doubt being planted at points. It'll just be interesting to see whether or not they then just steamroll their way across the remaining games, or whether or not there's a few twists and turns still to come.
It was evident, Suzanne, that the final that Alison's talking about, Rangers, even the substitutions that we're bringing on, that they have that firepower there if it's not going their way on the pitch.
Yeah, I think, you know, I agree with Alison. I think when you look at the squads, you know, Rangers probably just edge it in terms of overall strength and depth, because you look at the substitutions they bring on week after week, you know, they're names that would get into any starting 11 in the league. And, you know, you seen that yesterday with Rio Hardy, you know, coming on and getting that goal and having such an impact. And that's something that Rangers have, because they weren't at their best yesterday. But it's all about picking up points.
They have that element of youth as well in Mia Macaulay, but she comes up at big moments. She scores in cup finals, so
she's been fantastic. She's had a really tremendous first campaign, having been promoted from the academy into the first team, identified by Jill Potter and brought in. I think last season we saw a very similar story. We saw Emma Watson come through, make an impact, go down to Manchester United. Obviously very unfortunate with the injury that she picked up with the ACL. But yeah, I think she's a fantastic talent. I think very exciting, very direct, great energy about her, a great enthusiasm too about her play. I think Rangers would want to hang on to her for a wee bit longer, but I think it's very difficult when you're in the league that you're in. I think if anyone comes calling from down south, I think realistically it's very, very hard to say no to. It's a completely different world. I think you're looking at a contract that could be life-changing in many aspects. A vastly superior league. It's significantly more financed. It's definitely just an elevated platform to go and play your football. So I think long-term, that is what will happen. I think it's inevitable. I think Rangers will want to keep her for at least another season, and you would hope that the league can hang on to these young players for a period of time. However, I think it reflects well on the league. It reflects well on the growing standard within the league, that you have clubs and leagues of greater prestige able to come in and take players away. I think it is a good reflection of the growing standard.
It would definitely be beneficial for us though, Suzanne, to keep players like Mia under our belts for Rangers for the highlight of the whole game.
Yeah, I think so. I think for the league to remain competitive, we need the talent to stay in Scotland. But, as Alison said, we need to make sure we've got the facilities, the standards round about them to make sure the game is constantly growing, because even when I was at Glasgow City all those years ago, and Liverpool, just when the Women's Super League started, and Liverpool came in for me and Megan Snedden and Rochelle Littlejohn, it was difficult to say no. Like, it really, really was. What you're saying there, you just see that little edge of, a potentially better league and better standards. And as much as, you were totally bought into everything Glasgow City had to offer in the game at that time, it was difficult to say no. So I can understand if clubs come calling, why they might choose to move as well.
What was your reasons, Suzanne? What did you eventually what was defining in your decision?
It was, it was more the standard was better than what was in Scotland at that point in time. And, I've been at Glasgow City so long, and I wanted to go and test myself, and ultimately I did go and do that. And, and again, I think, as a player I probably developed more, because, we talked about you were always out in front. When I moved to Liverpool in the Women's Super League, it was a different sort of ball game for us then, because we weren't winning every week. So it was a different challenge, not only on the pitch, but, personally, how we sort of dealt with that. But, I think that's the nature of sport, isn't it? As a player, you want to challenge yourself, you want to keep developing, but for Scotland and us, we need to make sure that we maintain and keep growing the game to ensure that our talent, has the platform to succeed here as well.
Definitely. Well, the final game of the top half of the table is Partick Thistle against Hearts. 3-0 win for Hearts. A great result going into the derby next week.
Yeah, it was very comfortable for Hearts, which, to be honest, surprised me, because, Partick Thistle, they've had a great season, obviously getting to the cup final as well. Potentially a little hangover for that, perhaps, because I'm certain that Eva Olid probably didn't expect it to be as comfortable as it was for our team yesterday. I thought Hearts played well. They were well worthy of their 3-0, and as you say, it sets them up nicely for a derby, albeit, I think derbies take care of themselves regardless of the results beforehand.
Do you still think they're feeling, like Suzanne said, there are a bit of the effects from their loss of the final, Alison?
Yeah, I think it was probably below par from Thistle yesterday. I think too, Thistle's season really is made by making that top six for the second successive campaign. But then every game is a really hard game. You're not getting a breather. You're up against full-time teams for the run-in. I think for a part-time team, that can be very challenging when every game you're playing a superior standard, better fitness, players that are more rested than what you've got. They're a team of players who juggle commitments elsewhere. So I think inevitably you might see a bit of a drop-off. However, I think they've been fantastic throughout the season. I think Brian Graham's done a wonderful job with Partick Thistle. I thought you saw that in the first half last Sunday at Tynecastle. He really went toe-to-toe with Rangers for 45 minutes, and then of course I think Rangers' quality shone through. But I think they'll feel as though they've made their mark this season again, but it's a tough run-in for them.
Definitely. It's not only physically challenging, but mentally as well. It must be really tough every week.
Yeah, I think so. But I really, really enjoy watching Partick Thistle. I think they've got a great connection from the players and the staff. I think Brian Graham has done a wonderful job, and I think he's the type of person that will never, settle for what they've got. He's always pushing them more and more, and they're a part-time team, and I understand that, and but that, I come from that nature, that's where I was at Glasgow City, and as a player, you want to play against the best, you want to always test yourself, so they have guaranteed the top six, and for me, I think they should be just going out in every game and sort of pushing and testing themselves as much as they can.
From a Hearts perspective then, there's 14 points between them and Glasgow City. What are their targets be from now until the end of the season? What can they hope to achieve?
Yeah, so I know it's a bit of a gap, and coming into this season, I probably, if I'm honest, thought Hearts would have performed better than they maybe have. I think particularly in the first half of the season, there was a lot of results that I was looking at and thinking, I expected them to run out winners. You know, I was really impressed with Hearts last season. You know, they certainly had the beating over Hibs, you know, in terms of that sort of Edinburgh rivalry. You know, I think they've got 2 derbies, I think, as a player, and, you know, your biggest rivals, you know, the target was 6 points out of 6 against, you know, Hibs. And, you know, I think going into next season, they really need to try and, you know, break that top 3 and try and get in there. That should be their, you know, their next goal.
Have you been underwhelmed by Eva Olid's side, Alison, this season?
Yeah, I think it's been a disjointed campaign. I think the second half of the season's been a bit more fluid than the first half. I think it was a bit stop-start. I think realistically, between Hearts and Hibs, it's a fight for 4th and 5th. I think you know the top 3 takes care of itself, and we've spoken about it often. You do almost have 3 leagues within a league. You've got the top 3, you've got the middle section, and then you've got the bottom section. I think for Hearts and Hibs, it's about vying for supremacy in Edinburgh just now. I think it's about seeing who comes out on top between the 2 of them and who takes the 4th or the 5th spot.
Definitely. Well, on behalf of myself, Alison and Suzanne, thanks for listening, thanks for watching. We'll be back with more action to look forward to next weekend.